Welcome back to the UCL Fantasy video and podcast. This time out of Matchday 9, and I'm going to create the best wildcard team for the first leg of the quarterfinals. And if you haven't used the wildcard already, I think Matchday 9 is a great time to use it. But if you're quite happy with your squad, you don't need to make that many changes, you could consider using the wildcard in Matchday 11 for the first leg of the semi-finals, which would then allow you to go for some differential picks in the quarterfinals and go for some players from teams that you might expect to be eliminated, such as Borussia Dortmund or maybe, for example, Paris Saint-Germain if you are backing Barcelona to go through. Smash the like button of this video and let's get this to the 200. And we're very close towards 23k subscribers. We're going to try to reach that milestone by the end of next week, and if not, we will reach it by the end of the season. Check out all the other links in the description below for the Patreon, Championship Discord server, the UCL Fantasy League, and also Draft Town. But also, there is Spotify and Amazon Music. Leave a 5-star review and listen to those podcasts. It goes a long way to supporting the channel. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. As I highlighted in the Best Limitless Team video and podcast, you don't want to go for two goalkeepers playing on the same day. So reluctantly, we have to go for a goalkeeper playing on the Tuesday, and all of them are good options in their own right. The problem is the fixtures, with Lunin facing Manchester City, and even with the likes of David Raya facing Bayern Munich. There isn't a clear standout from the Tuesday matches, but Lunin is the cheapest. He has a high ceiling for a goalkeeper. He can make penalty saves, saves in general, and win Player of the Match awards. And to cover Real Madrid defensively, Lunin is by far the best option. The only downside is that he's facing Manchester City, and Real Madrid could be knocked out in the semi-final stage with no clean sheets whatsoever. But I think Lunin is a great option to cover the Tuesday. And on the Wednesday is where you see the best options in UCL Fantasy. And I think Oblak is the #1 goalkeeper pick, especially in Matchday 9 with a home fixture against Borussia Dortmund. And when you look at ter Stegen and Donnarumma, they're facing each other, and you would expect goals in that Paris Saint-Germain versus Barcelona game. And I think Atletico Madrid could be the only team to keep a clean sheet in Matchday 9. And that's why I'd recommend going for 2 defensive coverage, 1 defender at least, and Oblak in goal. I think that's a great differential, and not many people will go for that, even with 5 free transfers that we all get for Matchday 9 or on the wildcard or limitless. So I'd highly recommend Oblak as the best goalkeeper for Matchday 9. The best Atletico Madrid defender is Molina, who's getting 5 or 6 points every single game in UCL Fantasy to make him the 4th highest scoring defender overall. He is quite expensive, but he has attacking potential. He can win penalties, get assists, and he's one of the best right wing backs in Europe. And going for Oblak and Molina is expensive, but I think it's well worth the money, especially in Matchday 9. And not only that, I also back Atletico Madrid to reach the semi-finals, and they also have a decent chance of reaching the final from their side of the draw and their bracket. So I think these two offer great value despite being so expensive. And if you were to go for any premiums in defense, I'd highly recommend Molina, especially with Hakimi suspended. If you want to break down on all the injuries and suspensions, check out my Best Limitless Team video where I cover every single one of them, and 2 more to talk about. I mean, technically 3. Dani Ceballos has a thigh discomfort, so he's doubtful currently. Leroy Sané and Coman are also injury doubts for the Arsenal game, and they will be out of the squad on Saturday against Heidenheim. So there's a lot, of course, to keep track of. There'll probably be more injuries and maybe even illnesses that we need to keep track of over the next couple of days. I'll keep you posted in the comment section of my videos, and also potentially in the live stream, which I'm looking to do for Tuesday, a deadline stream from 6 p.m. UK time up until 8 p.m. If that's possible, it will certainly be done on this channel as usual, as I'll still be on holiday, but I'm still trying to get the best content out for UCL Fantasy. Now, the next defender is quite a simple one. I've been talking about him for such a long time in UCL Fantasy, and that's William Saliba. I think he's the best Arsenal defender, period, because he's the cheapest. If you compare him to Gabriel and Kivior, who are priced around 6 million, well, Saliba is still quite cheap, so to speak, at 5.5, and he also makes a lot of ball recoveries, and he does have a bit of attacking threat, which he hasn't showed yet in the Champions League. But Saliba is a decent way to cover the Arsenal defence, and I'm not expecting many clean sheets for the Gunners in general, even if they reach the final. But if there was one team to keep a clean sheet from the Tuesday, I think Arsenal are the most likely, and that's why I've gone for William Saliba. The next defender is away from home, but I do think his ball recovery potential makes him a decent UCL fantasy choice, and that's Jules Koundé. Now, if you have the funds, Joao Cancelo is even better, but with this squad, there won't be much left in the bank, and that's why I've gone for Jules Koundé as a cheaper option to cover that Barcelona defense. They've actually not conceded in 5 consecutive La Liga games with 5 clean sheets. They've been very impressive ever since Xavi announced that he's leaving at the end of the season. Barcelona are unbeaten, and they also have some very big results in there, like a 3-0 win away to Atletico Madrid. So that could also be a semi-final potentially that we see between those two sides, and Barcelona would have the edge in that matchup. Now, the fourth defender I'm going to go for is also a cheap option, and he might not be the very best overall because he is also away from home, and you might back the other team to go through to the semi-finals. But I still like Maatsen and even Ryerson, Mats Hummels, Schlotterbeck. They're all good picks in their own right, but I would go for Maatsen as a cheap option, and that's pretty much the only reason why he's in here. If you have Nathan Ake and you need a like-for-like replacement around 4.5 million, I think Maatsen could still be quite decent for matchday 9 and 10, but I don't expect any clean sheets in the process. But for me, the best budget defender right now is Lucas Beraldo. I'd highly recommend him, especially if you can't afford Marquinhos or once he's back from suspension, Hakimi. I think Beraldo is a very good option at that price. He makes a lot of ball recoveries. He was sent off recently in Ligue 1, but he's not suspended in the Champions League, of course. And I think he's a good option at 4.5 million with only 0% ownership, less than 1. So he's a very big differential, and a clean sheet against Barcelona is possible in matchday 9. So that's the defensive line. We're covering a lot of different teams, but no Bayern Munich or Manchester City, which might be a bit of a surprise. You could still go for Ruben Dias if you wish, although he's 1 yellow card away from suspension. And in terms of Bayern Munich, I'm not really a big fan of them defensively. Despite some decent underlying numbers in the Bundesliga, they still concede some sloppy goals, and I don't think they'll keep a clean sheet against Arsenal, home or away. But you can shape certain things to your preference. You might back Bayern Munich to reach the final or at least the semi-final, and you might want to go for one defender if you wish. And in that case, you could go for De Ligt or maybe Eric Dyer, with Kim Min-jae likely to be on the bench. But that is my defensive line. We've got a double up in Atletico Madrid, 1 Real Madrid goalkeeper, and the rest to cover Arsenal, Barcelona, Borussia Dortmund, and Paris Saint-Germain. There are some good budget midfielders this season. Even Pavlovic, who's currently a Dow, I think he's got an infection at this moment in time, but he could be available to face Arsenal. He got 5 points in his only start in matchday 8. But Joshua Kimmich is a very reliable UCL fantasy pick. He's on set pieces, he can get assists, good for ball recoveries, and from time to time he can score a goal from outside the box. And I think Joshua Kimmich is probably the second best Bayern Munich midfielder behind Musiala, who's also over 2 million more expensive. And with Leroy Sané and Koeman both doubtful for matchday 9, I think Kimmich or Musiala is probably what you want to go for to cover that Bayern Munich midfield. But of course, you also have Fermin Lopez as a cheap option, Rodri as well, around 6.7 million. So you have options. They're not going to be great, the most spectacular choices. You really want to go for those over 8 million, like Phil Foden, Bellingham, Saka, etc. But I do like these sort of reliable picks like a Joshua Kimmich, who can offer you a certainty of starts and also some decent consistency, getting 4 or 5 points in every single match day. But speaking of which, I have kind of spoiled already some of the names that are going to be included in this midfield. Jude Bellingham is a quite obvious pick, of course, with 65% ownership, and he also has been incredible in the Champions League this season. He is facing Manchester City at home, but I still think he can do very well in this fixture. And if Madrid were to go through, I think Bellingham will be pivotal. There are 3 midfielders I look at, and I believe they are very close to essential. Bellingham and Foden are 2 of those, and the third one is another English starlet in Bukayo Saka, who's currently doubtful at the time of this recording, but if he does start against Brighton later tonight, then there will be no qualms, no concerns about this whatsoever by the time this video is published. But just keep an eye out for that. Even if Saka was on the bench and got a brief cameo, I'm very confident Saka is going to start against Bayern Munich. And of course, if he's out of the squad and Arteta gives a very negative update, then things could change and you could replace Saka with a Martin Odegaard or another Arsenal midfielder. But I think Saka will play against Bayern Munich, and as a result, he's the best Arsenal attacker, period, even though Kai Havertz is in incredible form right now. But like I said, if Saka's unavailable, I would either go for Martin Odegaard or perhaps a Jamal Musiala to cover that Bayern Munich attack even further. But if you were to do so, I'd probably change Joshua Kimmich to a Rodri or maybe a Fermin Lopez as another example. But the final midfielder is probably the best budget midfielder we have, but he hasn't been in great form in Ligue 1 or the French Cups as well. And that's Zaire Emery, who has sometimes played as a right back this year, and that's really halted his goals and assist potential. But in the Champions League, he was incredible in the group stages, and he's only 5.6 million. He might not be a Cole Palmer like we see in FPL, but Zaire Emery has so much potential as an overall player. And in terms of UCL fantasy prospects, he is still a good option in the midfield. Even if you back Barcelona to go through or to win in Matchday 9, I'd still go for Zaire Emery as your fifth midfielder. In UCL fantasy, forwards are always a big talking point, and this season is no different. We have 4 premiums of high quality, and we have to narrow it down to 3. And I would go for Harry Kane because I believe he'll score at least 1 goal against the Gunners over both legs. He has a great record against them. It's one of his favourite opponents, and 7 of his last 10 goals against them have been from penalties. But even from open play, he can get the job done. And if you were to go for any Bayern Munich attacker, Harry Kane is by far the best. Then it's Musiala in second. But the other forward I'm going to go for here is Kylian Mbappe against an informed Barcelona side. And Mbappe isn't in the best of form himself, but I still think he's a great option and arguably the best forward for Matchday 9. He has a great record against Spanish opposition. I think he'll continue that even if Paris Saint-Germain were to be eliminated. The final forward is going to be a differential in Vinicius Jr. with 16% ownership. That's not the lowest ownership in the world. It's not really a differential, but compared to an Erling Haaland with over 60% ownership, I believe Vinicius Jr. is a differential. And I might even go for a transfer like that, where I sell Erling Haaland to a Kylian Mbappe. Find out in my team selection video and podcast, which will be coming out very soon. But this front three is the very best for Matchday 9, in my opinion. You could also consider Antoine Griezmann if you're really backing Atletico Madrid to reach the semi-finals and you want to go for an even bigger differential. I certainly wouldn't be against that. Griezmann in for Harry Kane would be my suggestion. I think Vinicius could do something against Man City in the first leg, like he did last season in a 1-1 draw. But over both legs, you could do a bit of a switcheroo, have Vinicius for the first leg, and then switch him to Erling Haaland for the return fixture at the Etihad. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. There's always different ways to approaching things. Remember, we always get free transfers for the second leg of each round. And for the first leg of each round, just like for Matchday 9, we get 5 free transfers. But one upgrade we could make with 0.8 million in the bank is Maatsen to Mats Hummels, who is a ball recovery machine. I think that's one improvement we could make on this best wildcard team. And if there's anything else that springs to mind, be sure to let me know. And there's always different ways to approaching UCL fantasy, especially in the group stages. But even up until this stage of the competition, there is room to be different. And that's where this front three of Vinicius, Mbappe and Kane can certainly do that for you. In terms of the captaincy, that's where things are a bit tricky. But as I mentioned in the best limitless team, there's not a clear standout for the Tuesday. And even on the Wednesday, it's very difficult indeed. But I believe I'd captain Bellingham on the Tuesday, and for the Wednesday, I'd go for Kylian Mbappe. I believe he's the best captaincy option across both days within Matchday 9. But that wraps it up for the wildcard, and always play it your way. If you back a certain team like Bayern Munich to go through, you could go for more Bayern Munich players and maybe go less on Arsenal. There's kind of 2 ways of playing UCL fantasy in the knockout stages. One is where you kind of go for a balance and you cover all bases. But the second one is to go all in on certain teams. And that's where, if you're looking to wildcard in Matchday 11, that could be perfect for you because you can really be aggressive and go for some differentials. And if it doesn't work out, you've got that wildcard in your back pocket. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Let's get this video to over 200 likes and let's keep on pushing towards 23,000 subscribers and beyond. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the other links in the description below for the Patreon, Championships Discord server, the UCL Fantasy League, Draft Town, and Spotify and Amazon Music. Leave a 5-star review on those platforms and listen to my podcast. I wish you all the best of luck for Matchday 9 and the rest of the season, and I'll see you next time.